Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from Totally Not Mark. We got another Dragon Ball review video. The ultimate filler review. I don't know if it's just Dragon Ball. Still intrigued though if it is. And Dragon Ball Z had quite a bit of filler. And Super had some filler. And I think there's filler everywhere. Some of it's good. Some of it not so good. Let's see what Mark thought.
You know what? Today I woke up and said to myself, Mark, you've been too happy lately reviewing all of Dragon Ball Z. And you know what? I'm right. I should listen to myself more. Since starting this channel, I've covered all of Dragon Ball. From the classic material to Dragon Ball Z, from the films to Dragon Ball Super.
Everything.
And Dragon Ball GT. I've even covered Super
Heroes.
Dragon Ball Heroes, would you believe?
Oh my!
Yeah, I know. I thought by saving Dragon Ball Z for the finale, I was saving the best for last, but as it turns out, I've neglected one glaring part of the wider series, the filler. But here's the fun part. I have actually somehow never seen any of this, ever. Though I've watched the Dragon Ball Z anime in its entirety many times over, I've never seen any of Dragon Ball's filler episodes
okay, yeah, it's Dragon Ball.
now. There are 20 episodes of straight concentrated filler for me to hook into my veins. That's a little over 7 hours of bullshit, sweet Dragon Ball nectar for me to devour and review for your viewing pleasure. And you want to know the best part? That's just classic Dragon Ball. Z has way more. Like, so much more. So sit back and relax as I force myself to wade through the filler of Dragon Ball's past in search of a diamond hidden amidst the rough.
Cool.
Alright, so first things first, I'm a realist. Glad we got that cleared up. Second thing is, we gotta define what constitutes filler for this video.
What is filler?
In a general sense refers to anime-only material not present in the manga, and it comes in two forms, generally. Content separate from the main story, and content that elongates the canon material. Dragon Ball as a whole is chock full of the latter. And let me tell you, you do not want me to sit here talk about the extra 4 hours of Goku staring at Frieza. So stuff like that and Goku being chased through Penguin Village are off the cards, unfortunately. That would take a psychotic amount of time, and quite frankly, you can't make me. So instead we're diving into the proper dedicated stuff to see whether it's great and truly feels like Dragon Ball. To be fair to the writers tasked with creating filler episodes, I think they have a rather narrow margin for error to work within. Most of what I'll be covering today will be collections of filler episodes nestled between canon arcs, meaning they are forced to begin after a particular event with specific conditions,
and then it has
even
to
more
end.
restricting, they are forced to conclude with the continuation of the canon story.
Yeah, it can't be easy. Cannot be easy doing that.
This creates difficult challenges for the filler to overcome. Number one, if the writers get too creative or ambitious with their vision for these mini-arcs/episodes, then they run the risk of confusing or derailing the main story, which is not good.
No,
and number two,
it is not.
if they play things too safe, they become oppressively boring. My least favorite thing in this story. So, truth be told, if I can find even 1 or 2 episodes that impress me here, I'll consider this a roaring success. So, let's find that gold. Filler Arc 1, episodes 30 to 33, which I will call henceforth the Uninspired Start.
Uninspired
This first
Start,
collection of episodes finds its placement following Goku's defeat at the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai. In the manga's continuity, following the tournament, Goku embarks on a journey to reclaim his grandpa's 4-star Dragon Ball, and along the way, he encounters the Red Ribbon Army. But in this, following the tournament, Goku embarks on a journey to reclaim his grandpa's 4-star Dragon Ball, and along the way, he encounters the Red Ribbon Army and the Pilaf Gang. I can smell the Oscar nominations already.
Oh my
Jokes
god,
aside,
creativity.
There are elements to this story that I did enjoy. If you're the sort of person that likes guns shooting and planes fighting in Dragon Ball, I don't think any other part of the series has you covered this extensively. And it's funny, I always thought that there was a lot of that sort of thing in the Dragon Ball movies, but here I am finding out that Toei's obsession with planes and dogfights starts even earlier than that.
My god.
Furthermore, it's kind of cute that we get to see where and how the Red Ribbon Army found and obtained the Dragon Balls they had during the Red Ribbon Army arc. That sort of added context is fun, but it did have its trappings, which regrettably I found very boring before long.
Oh, no.
I suppose, however, it depends on how you like your Dragon Ball. Personally, while I did enjoy the Red Ribbon Army arc overall, I wasn't a massive fan of the Army versus Goku dynamic, and this filler prelude just felt like an extended version of that with a sprinkling of Pilaf. The overarching plot of these episodes sees Goku and the two separate villainous parties vying for whatever Dragon Ball props up, with each individual arc offering up a chance for misadventures. The first brings them into contact with a young thief that smells bad. In the second, we reunite with Chi-Chi and Ox King for Goku's supposed wedding. The third offers some cool action and militaristic animations akin to Gundam.
It does look okay. Like, whoa. Yeah.
But something that I did start to think about was something I had heard written about Dragon Ball long ago. Following the conclusion of Dragon Ball's first arc, sales of the manga hit a bit of a lull, so to speak. There was a sense that perhaps now that the Dragon Balls had been gathered and the wish made on the dragon, the general public figured they'd seen the story's one trick.
Right.
That there was no more to see.
Yeah, it's only so often you can do that, isn't it? Like, yeah.
And that's when Toriyama hit the masses with the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai, an arc entirely different to that which came before. And the same can be said for the Red Ribbon Army arc that follows it. Dragon Ball's greatest strength early on was its versatility and ability to offer something new at every turn. You never knew where it was going, and I think that's what this filler arc was lacking for me. It felt like a retread of plot elements or an incorporation of story elements that felt like they were taken from the first arc mixed with a flavor of what's to come. In other words, it felt too much like what we've already seen, not helped by bringing back the Pilaf trio as prominent antagonists rather than the bit players they ultimately play later. I will say, however, that while the first 3 episodes play it too safe, the fourth decides to confidently expand on the deep lore of the series unabashedly.
Really?
Perhaps, too confidently. Suddenly, the story shifts from what's going on with Goku and we're following Krillin training on Roshi's island. In it, Roshi starts to explain the history of the Dragon Balls.
No way.
Now, remember, this isn't canon. This isn't written by Akira Toriyama.
Wow.
And I love how, on one hand, this mini-arc takes no chances in terms of plot, but then out of nowhere throws a Hail Mary all caution to the wind and tries to give an origin to the orbs that literally define this series.
That is mad, actually. That is mad. Like, the ball's on you. The ball's on you. Literally. Look at him. Yeah. Aha.
It's in the name. I gotta look up who wrote this. 1 second. This episode it's called The Legend of the Dragon.
Right.
And it's written by Toshiki Inoue.
Inoue.
I feel like I've heard that name somewhere. Yeah, massive balls on this guy. The biggest testicles in Toei.
Oh.
And hilariously, after about 35 years, this filler material actually ended up getting some things right. Completely by accident now. But Roshi literally says that the Dragon Balls used to be one big ball. Which, as it's presented in the episode, is totally wrong, but if we take his words at face value, it's kind of funny how the Namekian Dragon Balls were taken from the original Super Dragon Balls. I suppose a broken clock is right twice a day, but even that more ambitious episode just sort of ends abruptly in an effort
It is kind of crazy to actually try and approach that. That's mad.
to rejoin the mainline continuity. Anyways, I'd give this material a 5 out of 10. It's inoffensive, but a little boring. Next, Husky and the Amusement
Husky and the
Park.
amusement park.
Unlike every other section I'll be covering in this video, which boasts numerous episode-long chunks, this is the only standalone filler episode to speak of.
Alright, it doesn't have
Goku
like any
travels to
continuing
Bulma's
story
place.
going on with it
This
around
episode,
it, right?
therefore, takes place right after they meet and before they leave together to continue their adventure, effectively extending the in-story continuity by a single day in order to allow time for some fun at this futuristic amusement park.
Cool.
One thing I will say about this episode is that it's got a lot more going for it than what I just covered in the prior filler. We've got a unique location at this futurist fun fair. We've got a brand new anime-only villain in the blonde femme fatale / thief in Husky.
Groovy.
And there are plenty
Sure,
of
that's
other
cool.
character moments I found endearing, like Goku reacting to an escalator for the very first time. Husky is essentially a force that's trying to get the Dragon Balls in this episode, but the way she does so is very, uniquely sleuthy. There's an element of deception and underhandedness that's less commonly seen with a finesse that's rather entertaining, one that results in a very funny gag. Through pretending to be a psychic, she asks Goku about the 2 balls in his possession, to which he responds by doing outstanding stuff. It's a much more fun episode than the last, but nothing too exciting. As
Oh
it didn't
my
have enough
God.
time. It's a pleasant experience. A 6.5 out of 10 I think is fair, but we're trending upwards. Next,
Nice.
the solo training arc. These 5 episodes have a unique opportunity. Unlike the prior episodes I've discussed, while this arc is nestled between 2 canon stories, the Red Ribbon Army arc and the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, this filler takes place during a canon training stint that went unseen in the manga. Where the manga often would leave these training stints as time skips, the anime filler saw a gap to fill and took advantage.
It's like, let's just show that then. Okay, cool. All right.
Of it. Placing episodes in this previously mysterious stretch of training leading up to the tournament obviously gives them a lot of wiggle room, which makes it a lot easier on the writing team at Toei to tell a compelling story that teaches Goku some valuable lessons before he arrives at that very tournament. So, do they do that? Not really. Okay, I'm being a little harsh when I say that, but this arc does fall into a lot of the same trappings that plagued the very first filler arc of this series, feeling distinctly monster of the week in its approach. We see Goku travel far and wide while walking on his hands no less through forests and mountain ranges as he encounters unique challenges along the way. My main issue with this collection of episodes is that the connective tissue between them feels like a background element begrudgingly placed there. The canon element, and in my opinion the most interesting element of this material, is that Goku is sent to train around the world, to build upon the teachings he learned and discover some new ones. And while he sort of does that, very little of what is being shown here demonstrates any progression towards that goal. Instead, we spend around 2 hours following the misadventures Goku gets up to, and that's kinda disappointing. It's a bummer because this stretch of filler is placed, in my opinion, a lot smarter than what came before. Choosing to fill an existing established gap in the story rather than chisel out your own nonsense is a much more natural way to squeeze more runtime and plot out of an existing series. The problem, of course, is that lack of cohesion from episode to episode that really messes things up. I think the main problem here, however, is the difference in how these stories are being written.
They look so metal.
Dragon Ball the manga was written by one person, Akira Toriyama. He dictates what the story is, how it goes, etc. However, the anime is a TV show. That's a very different environment. You have a whole host of writers, directors, and so on, each tasked with writing how any given episode goes. And the key difference here is that the writer on one episode is almost always different to the writer on the next. So while the anime staff obviously coordinate the overarching story of a given filler arc, that coordination is not really guaranteed, especially when the production schedule is tight. Tight, yeah! However, I will say that thankfully these episodes are a lot more adventurous than
Last episode of Breaking Bad came out 10 years ago. Crazy.
the prior outings. The first episode shows Goku trying to save a town from a couple of strong biker
So cool looking.
types, armed with a stunningly powerful gourd that sucks in those that don't respond to a roll call. That is hilariously specific, and this one in particular felt very fun, light, and fittingly magical.
Cool.
The closest, however, we get to Goku actually getting to learn some martial arts comes from the second episode where he faces off against an old master called Taiken. It's unfortunately a little on the boring side, and hilariously, the only thing that can bring back legitimacy to this sick man's struggling dojo is Goku. A martial artist that has nothing to do with that school, a fighter chosen because all the other pupils in this guy's school either suck too bad or straight up left. So it's a weird one for
That is a strange one. What's the lesson learned there?
sure, and a little confusing in its messaging. And then, of course, we have Ten Shinhan setting a purple pig on fire. Really, it's fun for the whole family, just not me. I like this arc more than the first set of episodes, but not by much. 6 out of 10. Next.
Okay.
The Heavenly Training Arc. This training arc is awesome, and it is by far the best filler I've seen from early Dragon Ball so far. And what's more is, it has an episode I might actually go back and watch again from time to time, which might make this episode in question my favorite filler episode in the series. Though that still remains to be seen. Taking place during the time skip between the end of the King Piccolo arc and the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, this arc explores the training Goku undergoes with Mr. Popo in one of the most criminally unexplored areas in the Dragon Ball mythos, the Lookout. The weaker points of this mini-arc are akin to some of the best from the prior. However, even within those moments of similarity, it finds time to grant some exposition and story to the supporting characters of Krillin, Yamcha, Chaozu, and Ten Shinhan as they prepare for the upcoming World Tournament themselves. Not to mention a wonderfully entertaining time travel episode where Goku meets Master Roshi as a young man.
Oh, that's so cool. Awesome.
Once again, the anime filler is set up for success here by choosing to fill an established gap in the story. And this time around, it manages to be a lot more cohesive due to the strong focus on Popo's training specifically. Where prior training arcs concerned themselves with random adventures, with the backdrop being Goku's training, this arc keeps the training right at the forefront of the plot. With Popo tasking Goku with simply catching him or learning specific lessons from the distant past to help Goku develop as a warrior, it's all really compelling stuff that connects Goku to the concept of ki more intrinsically, as well as his additional senses. But my favorite episode of this arc has to be episode 130, entitled Goku's Opponent is Goku? This episode was written by Hajime Satsuki and directed by Mitsuo Hashimoto. The concept of the episode is simple and the lesson compelling. Goku has to learn how to get out of his own way, maximize his efforts, and become a more efficient fighter. To push Goku, Popo takes one of his hairs and creates a clay doll in the form of Goku. An entity that is equal to him in every way physically, with the only discernible difference being the mindset implemented. I loved this episode for the animation, the choreography, and the stunning direction towards the end. It's honestly terrific stuff as the sun sets and Goku gets pushed back towards the edge of the lookout by this doppelganger dummy, reminding me that this is a version of Goku that cannot yet fly and could in fact die if he were to fall from here. The views are stunningly beautiful and the conclusion somber. It's by far my favorite episode in this mini arc, and pending some time to sit on it, might be my favorite filler material in all of Dragon Ball's other series too.
Cool.
Overall, the arc itself is strong and I think I'd watch it again. As filler goes, it's some of the best. It takes the strong approach of the previous filler training arc and tidies up a lot of its disarray with a more focused focal point. It very much felt like we were following a compelling story of self-discovery for Goku, one that felt true to the warrior that eventually arrives at the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai later.
Awesome.
I'd love a full arc covering the years spent here training with Popo. It was awesome, and I think we found our diamond in the rough. 8.5.
8.5 out of 10. Go ahead, he really liked it. Cool.
Out of 10. The wedding dress arc.
Oh.
Right out of the fire and into the fry pan. I'm very funny. But the obvious aside, we are finally at the last filler episode of the original Dragon Ball anime. And I want to say that while this filler arc doesn't possess the highs of the prior, on average, it's much more consistently enjoyable across the board. In addition to that, this arc enjoys a freedom no other filler in this series to this point has had. An open ending opportunity. This arc sits right after the last chapter of Dragon Ball's early material, before the Saiyan saga commences in the first arc of Z.
Wow.
Which means that unlike the last chapters, which had to see Goku arrive at a particular point in time, this arc is allowed to tell its own story with a beginning, middle, and most importantly, an end. A climactic ending that's both emotional and fun. While episodic in nature to an extent, much like the prior arc, which had Goku's heavenly training as the vehicle for interesting stories and scenes, this arc uses Goku and Chi-Chi's impending wedding and Ox King as the motivating conditions that cause this magical adventure to unfold. Ox King is trapped in his palace with his late wife's dress for Chi-Chi to wear. He's protecting it for her, but is trapped in the tower surrounded by flames. Unlike more conventional stories of the time, which saw a damsel in distress trapped in a tower, Goku needs to save his soon-to-be father-in-law with the help of the capable Chi-Chi. The flames seem to be magical and cannot be put out easily, and so a quest/scavenger hunt for the Basho Sen, or some magical fan thing, commences that takes them
similar to like Madara uses, cool.
Quite literally all over the world as they reunite with a host of familiar faces from Dragon Ball's history. Baba, Ox King, Chi-Chi, Oolong's village, Turtle, the Pilaf gang obviously, and even his grandpa Gohan at the very end. It all feels like a wonderful celebration of Dragon Ball's characters and world. From volcanoes to snowy peaks to lake beds to the door to hell itself. It holds nothing back conceptually and has a lot of fun doing so. All the while Chi-Chi and Goku's relationship is explored.
Cool.
Of these 5 episodes, I particularly...
You don't get to see much of that, like, at all, ever.
...enjoyed episode 152, where they follow the treacherous path to the furnace. With this journey being one Goku is carrying out to save his father-in-law, the bond and trust Goku and Chi-Chi have for each other saw them to the end of this path safely. It's honestly kinda nice. The illusions or obstacles on this trail appeared as physical manifestations of their own growing fear in these circumstances, first appearing when Chi-Chi was nervous to jump the gap. The only way forward was to face fear unflinchingly, and Chi-Chi trusted Goku unconditionally in the end. Their bond for each other was quite literally strong enough to see them to the end safely.
That's so cool.
It's really sweet.
Wow.
But probably the funniest aspect of this arc has to be the 5 straight episodes, and God knows how many real-time hours or days in the story, Ox King is running frantically around his palace away from these seemingly sentient flames. It's a little ridiculous, but in the end, very enjoyable. This
Need to have a B plot.
arc even has its own little final battle of sorts against the Pyre Keeper with some really cool animation too. I might not watch this ever again, but I don't regret checking it out in the slightest. As filler goes, I'll give this a solid 7 out of 10.
Nice, cool.
Which brings us to the end of Dragon Ball, and so next it's time for Z, which has just, I want to emphasize, so much filler. But yeah, all in all, Dragon Ball's filler was, it was odd. It's certainly
There's only a minute left of this video.
not without its fun episodes or moments, but it very much felt to me that Toei was really
Oh, is he going to do it as a separate video?
still finding their footing in the world of standalone filler episodes for Dragon Ball. And even outside of the standalone filler episodes, there's a whole host of filler storylines and cutaways in early Dragon Ball that I didn't touch on in this video. And they really weren't afraid to just invent things that are sure to be contradicted down the line.
Mad, yeah.
They were really fearless and not always for the better, but at the very least, the further I got into these filler episodes, the quality curve seemed to continue improving. Better placed episodes, more cohesion, the whole 9 yards. Next week, we will see if that improvement continues.
Oh, right, okay,
But
cool.
until then, thanks for watching. I'm gonna lie down now.
Alright, so he's going to do Z as a separate one. Ooh, so he might do... Oh, I like it. Cool. Awesome. That's cool. Interesting to see. Interesting to see like the stories that were created in like different approaches. So it's like, let's make up something that doesn't kind of fit in, and then let's show what could have potentially happened in this time skip. Yeah, and that last one sounded really cool. Sounded really interesting, and it's gonna be cool to see the Dragon Ball Z filler reviewed. Make sure you check out my Etsy shop. The t-shirt I've designed, I absolutely love. Go check it out. Go support the channel by buying that. And if you don't want to do that, you can support the channel by supporting the Patreon page. Thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link is in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is our spot channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for that. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't. Leave comments below. Let me know that you want to discuss in future videos. So guys, see you guys, all you guys, next time.